Hey guys, three of us here today for the latest episode of the Unqualified Film Bros podcast. I'm back in the hosting chair. We are talking about, as you can tell by Ben's last four letters of his
I always
Zoom
have
name,
that.
we're talking about Sisu, the new, just brutal killing of Nazis movie from the producers of John Wick. Um, and in case you guys didn't notice, the beard is gone because my beard couldn't compete with the beard had by Yorma Tamila in the movie
You were
as
trying.
our protagonist. So
I don't think you could compete with that. I don't
that's
think.
why the beard is gone and no other reason whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
So as is tradition, what'd you guys think?
You know, I will admit, I love films where Nazis die, and in this film, a lot of Nazis died.
Wow,
And
you
so
quoted your Letterboxd review directly.
I am.
That's pretty much this Letterboxd review, yeah.
Follow me on Letterboxd for a lot of great insights or something into films.
You can't tell with my background, but I'm pointing to the description.
But no, I think this film was so goddamn straightforward. It was phenomenal. It was
No
great.
subtext.
Well, you say that, but I honestly really like this film because I find it actually has a lot of subtext.
No, I'm not saying it doesn't have. I'm just saying like there's no fat in the film, kind of like it goes straight through for like.
Well, what it really reminded me of is films like 1917 and Dunkirk, very visceral war films, and I viewed it as like a mixture between those types of filmmaking styles and like John Wick, just kill them all. Fun action, absurd action, probably more ridiculous action in film than John Wick. But I'd honestly say that this is a deeper film than John Wick, because without any dialogue. I think it captures a lot of realness to the story. Absurdist action, which is obviously fantastical, but the way that it's done is very visceral and it's very emotional. And I find, like with John Wick, I love the like one-liners and stuff. But they're not that deep. Like you try to add a little bit of story, but the main pole there is the action. This is not as like crazy stunts as John Wick is, like really choreographed stuff. It's more about an absurdist like view of action, but it has a level of realness. Like when he's doing things, he gets hit, and John Wick, when he gets hit, he sort of just gets back up and is like, oh, whatever. But you see it.
Not in chapter 4.
Chapter 4, he gets up and he's like, wow, whatever. He gets hit by 4 cars.
Consequences.
He's still walking. Yeah, he dies at the end. That's after being hit by 1,000 cars. And yeah, sorry, spoilers.
No. Okay.
We did the episode like a month ago.
I know. But, you don't want to. No, I get it.
Yeah, I don't know who's seen the episode. But honestly, I really love this type of film. The show, not tell. I have a big issue with films today telling so much, giving so much exposition. That's not needed.
Let me pause you right there, Ben, because I do want to talk about the exposition. This is the first, if my memory serves, this is the first movie we've done with narration off the top. We get the definition of Sisu, that it's a word that cannot be translated, means like when all hope is lost, and then we get narration.
No, Eternals had some.
That's true. Eternals did have some. I was gonna
say it had an opening scroll. It didn't have narration.
Oh wait, yes. Oh wait. Oh my gosh, yeah. Wait. Oh gosh.
I'll give you an off the cuff. It's not really fair because I told you guys to watch the final cut, but Blade Runner does have that.
That's not. I don't think we can do it.
It has the final scroll, and then they got the narration in the original film.
Okay.
Well, would this film have benefited from a Harrison Ford in Blade Runner style narration? Like, probably.
Only for Harrison Ford to forget a year later that he was ever in this movie. Not forget. Just block it from
just like just no.
I don't think
I was so happy when I found the gold.
Honestly,
he's genuinely
I hate when American studios remake good foreign films. And I think this would qualify as a foreign film.
It is, it's Finnish.
Yeah. So I hate when studios remake really good foreign films. We saw it with a really good example Declan and I have talked a lot about is Old Boy. There's a Korean film in 2003 that was remade in 2013 with Josh Brolin.
Wait,
Josh Brolin, we are still trying to figure out Josh Brolin's blood type from last time's trivia episode. So
I just back up. You've seen the original Old Boy?
Oh no, I've only seen the remake.
Oh.
But I've read about the original and how, the remake is nowhere near as good. But couldn't you just see this movie with Harrison Ford or like Bryan Cranston in the lead role?
Oh no.
No. Honestly, the whole like, are you talking Sisu?
Yeah.
Sisu? No, absolutely not. I think Jorma Tommila brings something that a lot of people can't, especially Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford would probably be the worst to bring this level of acting. He does so much with his reactions, with his face, without saying a single word. If Harrison Ford couldn't say a single word.
All right, you're right. Harrison Ford was a bad example. I could see Bryan Cranston doing this movie.
That would be weird, but like
it would be weird.
I don't see the physicality side of it. Sure, I could see the grumpy old man. Clint Eastwood could do that too, but I see the physicality side.
Okay. Hey, this is good. This is us dialoguing. But yeah, Jorma Tommila.
I do want to pump the brakes because I find that this film actually surprised me with how much it had. You have certain scenes where you could tell and you can draw a lot from the characters without them saying a single word.
Oh, like, yeah.
The horse gets blown up. And honestly, I love animals, and that's a big part of this film is like the innocence of animals. He even lights himself on fire rather than killing a dog. In that one scene.
Yeah, this is one thing that, and I'm going to quote my own Letterboxd review here. This is one thing that the John Wick producers finally got right. They didn't kill the dog.
Yeah.
I was terrified honestly, the entire film that the dog was gonna the main dog or the German Shepherd attack dogs for the Nazis. I was worried that any dog was gonna die in this one, and they didn't. So
I think for John Wick it works well because you're dealing with a hitman in underground criminal world. So you want something to ground the character. Killing the dog obviously shows the bad people. I think it talked about in the John Wick episode. But in this one, it's really easy. You don't need to kill any animals. They're literally Nazis.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They're killing people, they're hanging people. But there's also a few good scenes. Honestly, I thought the scene where he's putting like fixing himself up with the wounds, pouring gasoline on him while the Nazi washes. I thought that was brilliant because it's very much, and they do this very often. Like the Nazis continue to let him go, they'll let him suffer.
Yeah, that's true.
The Nazis would do in the war, the concentration camps. They would suffer and starve, and then they would kill them if they hadn't already died. The whole treatment of Sisu in this film is very much the way of the Nazis. Let them suffer because they have this superiority complex. They view him as already dead. Also just this,
How many times is he almost dead in this movie? It's got to be at least half a dozen.
Admit, like I in terms of like a this person is not to be fucked with speeches, I do feel like we got a call from the commander. This, it's like the guy, the German in the tank like lays out how many Russians that Sisu killed, and just just saying like, we lost 7 men. You got lucky. Like I feel like that was a really effective moment of like, holy shit.
It establishes the stakes of what this one-man death squad is capable of doing without showing it. We don't need to see a flashback of this, you know, ex-commander gold miner just obliterating hundreds of troops at once. That would be gratuitous, and it would be very similar to some of the later John Wick movies.
A little bit.
What we get with, and Ben, you're not going to like me for this, with telling but not showing, or maybe you will like me for that. I don't know. I forget which way you fall on that. But by telling and not showing, it adds a level of depth to the Nazi characters, where you see I don't know what rank the lead.
They're SS guys.
Oh,
the lead, the main antagonist.
Yeah.
The main antagonist of the film, you see what lengths he's willing to go compared with his squad and compared with higher leadership. This becomes a vendetta for him the entire film to get this one guy when he doesn't kill him right away.
I honestly really like the you talk about that. Honestly, I enjoy that. I think it's more of like a derivative from John Wick, but I mean, it's fine. It works fine. And just to be clear, when I love show don't tell, but that doesn't mean you can't tell anything. I mean, there's no need for him to make one-liners here because it's much more of a visceral experience. Like,
he has 2 lines the whole movie, and they're both at the end.
Yes. Yeah. Besides the grunts and the but yeah, the one thing that I really enjoyed in the film is it's the end of the war, and they know that. The soldiers know that. They talk about this. They know that they go back and it's already over for them. I mean, not just but they're Nazis. They'll be to Nuremberg. If they, especially him, he's a higher up, so he will be prosecuted for sure. So he knows he's going out with gold or he's going out. So it's not just vendetta. It's really he's in his own realm of survival, whereas the gold is a way out for both of them. He has nothing, and so he finds the gold, and he's gonna, try to, I don't know, rebuild. I mean, honestly, that's not really the important part. I view it as more of like a survival tale. And when he buries gold, I view it as very symbolic of he's giving up them, and then he sees the plane, and he decides not to give up. He unburies the gold. But the gold is sort of while it's wealth, it's also like an essence of life to these people.
It is in terms of his luck. It's an interesting thing because it's like he is getting it from he got it through his own. It's a weird thing to say, but like he got it through his own work from the ground, kind of like it's almost like it's he didn't take it from anyone. Like in a way it's truly his kind of. So it is sort of like it is symbolic of like his own labor in a way. It's an interesting,
and also it's symbolic of the Nazis' way of doing things. Is stealing,
just taking
all the art, all the gold that they stockpiled from different countries. It's their way of taking what's someone else's. So I mean, honestly, I feel like there's a lot of symbolism here that you can never get across with John Wick because it's a fun world. I mean, I love those movies, but they don't have the level of depth because they're not real. This is a piece of history, and you get the level of, even if the action is absurd, the horror and the emotional turmoil is not.
So
any depictions of any cinematic depictions of Nazis getting their comeuppance in order to stay within YouTube guidelines is always good to see. That's my opinion.
But I mean, there's a difference between like Inglourious Bastards, lots of Nazi Nazis
100 Nazi scalps.
But you get some of the horror, like thing of Jews hiding in the. But I really feel like this film does a good job of showing the actual.
That's true.
Like
having the female captives is like obviously they tell so much, by just the way people act and all that, and to see them like again get violent revenge is just phenomenal. I loved it so much, just like when she says it's like you pussies think you can face this guy and live. It's just oh my gosh, and then immediately the guy dies.
Something that a lot of survivors would hold on to, this idea of like someone coming that will take all the Nazis out. Their righteous vengeance.
But in many cases, that is seen as lost hope. It's seen as a pipe dream. No one's gonna come and take out every single bad guy and live to tell the tale in real life. Then you get a movie like this, and Declan, you said it exactly right. He shows up and he kills one of them instantly.
I will say there are some really good stories of people killing Nazis. I forget her name, but there was a woman with a tank that took out like tens of Nazis. I forget. She was a badass. But like, there's great stories of people literally just taking things into their own hands and killing Nazis.
Yeah. And Sisu functions as a fantasy, but it uses reality to make its fantasy that much better, I would say.
I really enjoy that, like, even though he's invincible, you feel like every hit hurts him,
Yes,
you feel like he needs to get back up. It's not just like it doesn't hurt him.
Yes.
And that's the distinction they make, is that like he's not immortal, he just refuses to die.
Well, that's exactly it, Ben. That's what I wanted to get into next. Was this film calls our main character, our protagonist, immortal. Just, the legends from the Nazis about what he has done and how he has survived basically everything. And, it's the idea of, relentless persistence. And what we see out of this character is he gets beaten up, for lack of a better phrase. He is just brutalized through the course of this movie. Everything from, from setting himself on fire to hanging to, countless puncture wounds to his skin that he has to sew up himself and then douse in gasoline.
The dirt.
There are so many things that I know the three of us could not fathom walking away from. Maybe Max could, but he's not here to confirm.
And he literally impales his legs so that he doesn't die.
That was the one part that I was like,
he's so badass.
Unrealistic. Not unrealistic.
Fucking dude.
But you know what? In the interest of, or for his character, in the interest of survival, the idea is by any means necessary.
Oh yeah.
And the whole concept of Sisu, the word that cannot be translated, and meaning not, I'm saying this horribly, but not giving up when all hope is lost. That is this character. That's why the film has this title.
And I think he is a bigger. Oh God, what's the word? He's like a representation of that, but also a representation of what a bunch of Finnish people and plenty of survivors in the Holocaust would have held on to. And there's moments like I talked about him, suffering while the Nazis watch. There's other moments where it's like the very first time he meets the Nazis, just like Jews would have to strip and they'd be embarrassed. He actually gets laughed at. Like he walks through them and he's sort of fearful for his stuff. He's got the gold in the back, but they just continue to laugh at him. And then he pulls out the gun and he puts it away because it's like he's already dead. but I mean, a lot of the ways that the Nazis view, like, I guess, engage with him is very similar to how they would treat any type of survivor.
Let's talk, speaking of the Nazis, let's talk about Axel Hennie's performance as Bruno, the leader of this squadron of Nazis. I had only ever seen him in a supporting role in The Martian.
Yeah, I remember him in The Martian.
Oh, is he in The Martian? Oh my gosh!
He's the doctor.
You know what? I thought he looked familiar. I thought he looked really familiar, and then I looked him up after I watched the movie, and I was like, oh yeah, he was that guy in The Martian.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that.
I thought, especially because he's probably the character with the most dialogue in the film, he, you know, while the protagonist doesn't exactly carry scenes through his voice, you still have a character, an actor, who needs to play off of no words. And I think he does a really good job of reacting to facial expressions and movement and really, creating, as much as we hate Nazis, creating a well-rounded three-dimensional character who gradually through the course of the 92-minute film just goes berserk trying to kill this guy.
Yeah. He's three-dimensional, but they never make him
they never make him redeemable.
Yeah.
And they never make you're right, they never make him pathetic. He's always there's always strength to his character.
Yeah.
Even when he's falling to his death.
I meant to say sympathetic.
Sympathetic, excuse me.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, he's never sympathetic.
Yeah.
It's like I feel like they do a good job. They do a good job at making it so that it's real people who are still Nazis. It's like they do a good job at making it so that it's not literal cartoon characters that is opposing our protagonist, but they're still genuinely evil people. This
is one of the perks of doing the show on Zoom is that Declan says sympathetic and I hear pathetic.
Yeah.
It's great. It's so great. We love doing the show on Zoom.
Similar to how Sisu is a representation of survivors, potential survivors that have really sick skills, I guess. But I mean, they're sort of just a representation of Nazis just in general. They do have their well-rounded characters. They have their depth, but they feel like Nazis. A encapsulation of the movement, of the genocidal tendencies, the selfish, greedy tendencies. Him at the end, shooting the one guy carrying all the gold.
Yeah.
Quintessential, Nazi, honestly, Nietzscheism, nihilism.
The war is over at this point. Not over, but they know they're losing.
Yeah, it's not completely over, but
they still choose. They still choose cruelty.
Yeah, because of the treaty, they know that they have no future left. I mean, so going out doing the things that they do.
Yeah. The similarity that I drew, and it's funny that you bring up nihilism and Nietzsche here, Ben. The connection I drew when, specifically in the third act of the film, the Nazi commander kills basically his last ally and gets on the plane with the gold. The bank heist at the beginning of The Dark Knight. If the commander kills his last troop, there's one, more gold for him, and two, more of a chance that he's preemptively stopping what could be betrayal.
Yeah.
I mean, it is also just, again, illustrates the reckless, just genuine disregard for anyone's life besides like besides his own, like he doesn't even think about,
even the pilot that's like he's literally shot and dying is like, as long as you're alive, fly the plane. He's like, okay,
yeah.
Can't really do anything else, but
that's the desperation. As soon as he realizes that the main character is on the plane,
yeah,
he knows that, you know, there's a very little chance that all three of them reach the ground alive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And just the fact that the plane crashes,
yeah,
and he walks away. Our main character.
That stretched it a little bit.
The suspension of disbelief it's strained just a little bit there.
Wee bit. You know,
I don't really mind it because I don't view it as trying to like be as real as John Wick. These aren't real, like,
no
choreographed stuff. And honestly, John Wick probably should have died about 15,000 times, but I mean that stuff doesn't bother me as much. That's the beauty
consequences.
No, yeah. It's
so
given
Ben,
that it's like the final thing, it's like it's all right, but
sorry, I just had a question for Ben here. But Declan, you can finish what you were saying.
No. It's just like, given that it's the final thing that happens, and like it doesn't. It's like it's okay. It's okay, but I would say that it felt like in a film where he manages to do a lot of unrealistic things. It was the only one that's a little bit like. But how did he do that? No, you know, it's.
I'm gonna be honest.
The one, like obviously I accept it, but it's like with the hanging, it's like, oh, he manages to put his leg on the nail to take it off his neck so he doesn't strangle. Like, okay, you know, it's unrealistic.
That plan is the one thing, because the one thing that probably worse than the plan actually has a chance of surviving that. Because he goes into the water.
True.
The thing that's really hard for me to believe, and I really didn't care anyway, was the landmine. The horse steps in the landmine. You blow up too.
That is true. I suppose a horse is a pretty big animal, so like it could, but yeah, I don't disagree.
That horse gets obliterated.
Yeah. But honestly,
which was, you know, I kind of likened that to when Jenny the donkey in Banshees of Inisherin chokes on the severed finger and dies.
As soon as
I like the horse.
Banshees came up in our Sisu review.
I knew they were getting fucked. So they didn't kill a dog. We all knew that. But the horse died, and you could see the rage in his eyes. But that's what I love about his acting. It's like he doesn't say anything. He just gently like caresses his horse. Like you can tell he cared for it. Just like rests there for a second. You know, each time something like this happens, you can see he's choosing to get back up. It's just like, back up. He wants to keep fighting.
So, Ben, my question for you, and Declan, this is not a question for you because you and I gave this the same Letterboxd score, 4 out of 5. Benji is very stingy with his 5-star films.
I am.
And he gave Sisu 5 stars.
I did.
I want to know why. What is the difference maker in this film for you, Benjamin Green, that gives this film an automatic, off-the-top, first viewing 5 stars?
Yeah.
I love a lot of different types of films, but I especially love it uncompromised artistic vision, which is what it is. Well, you do have the clear John Wick influence of a one-man death squad. That's not a new thing even for John Wick. Did that with Rambo like years back. I mean, they've done this so many times.
Yeah.
The big thing is the way that it's shot, the way that it's done. First of all, the no dialogue really makes the acting have to come out of the actor. You really focus on each part of the scene. Aside from that, he chooses really great shots. Similar to Dunkirk 1917. They don't just look good, but when things happen, you can see the distortion in his vision, the disconnect. One of the things I really like from Dunkirk is the chaos that happens from the sound is really good in this film too. The way that's shot just makes you experience it much more than just watching a film. You feel part of it. And overall, I mean, I liked a lot of the subtext to it. I thought it's incredible how much you can get across without doing so much. And that's something I wish more films would do. One of my biggest criticisms for 2049, Blade Runner 2049, is they talk too much. They talk way too much. The first Blade Runner has so many moments of silence where you can just absorb what they're doing, absorb the scenery. Movies are a visual medium. The more you tell, the more you're just taking away from that. It's not an auditory. It's not a book. If you're not using that to its fullest, I do have a lot of issues with that. But this does do that. Probably more so even than I love John Wick. I gave John Wick 4 or 5 stars. I'd say I put this in my Letterboxd review. I think it's a better film. It's not as stylistic with the action, but it is more uncompromised. It has a pure vision. And I respect that. It's 1 hour, 30 minutes. It's a €6 million budget. It is fully put together by a few people, and you can tell that. When studios get involved, you can often tell there's clamor and like a bunch of stuff that they want to add in there, especially these days, franchising. This has none of that. It's full of the story. There's no fluff, nothing in between. I mean, I can't criticize anything too much from the film. It's 5 stars.
Well, if I need to convince people why Sisu deserves to win Best Picture, I'm gonna quote you extensively there, Ben. Nice. I'm now rethinking if I gave the movie too low a score. No, I mean that was a good.
It depends what you like, and I don't expect Sisu to be in the running for that. Plenty of movies that I would give 5 stars to are more art house. They would never be in the running. This is not art house, really.
No.
It is a release, and smaller budget. It doesn't have the power to compete for Oscars.
Yeah.
That's just what the Oscars is. It's the biggest budgets and the best of those budgets. Not always the best films. Frequently not the best films because there's so many films that come out.
Yeah.
Ben, that was a very well put together answer for an on the spot question.
Yeah. Constantly thinking,
You brought up the violence presented in the movie, and it is just brutal. I mean, The Northman was brutal. All the John Wick movies are brutal. This movie, the first kill is a giant dagger being driven through the side of a Nazi's head.
Yeah.
And of course, that shot was spoiled in the trailer. But just from there, it builds and builds, and it's not stylized. Everything feels deliberately choreographed in a really like nuanced way. It's they're gory kills, but there's a certain, I don't know if subtlety is the right word, because they're not subtle, but there's a certain level of realism. A lot of the kills, and then you get a movie
like with John Wick, especially near the end. They're trying to figure out. I mean, that is its shtick. It's like stunts, crazy stunts, all practical, all realistic, all done, and seeing how much crazy stuff you could put in there. But this, I really view it as more raw. Like you could tell people really get hurt. They feel like they get hurt more than John Wick. Sisu, the main character, I forget his actual name.
I got it. Hold on.
But he feels like, I mean,
Tommy Corpy.
There we go.
Corpy.
And Corpy feels like he gets really beat up. Everyone feels it. It's a lot more raw. So I get what you're saying. I do think that's definitely deliberate. Like with the whole vision of the way it's shot.
And it helps me enjoy the film. And again, I love the John Wick movies. I love the like Matthew Vaughn style of violence, like you saw in like Kick-Ass and Kingsman movies. Like that's sort of violence I enjoy watching, just as, a don't have to think too hard action movie, action comedy. This is definitely not a comedy.
Good point.
Yeah. But that sort of style of violence I can get behind in a film. This style helped me enjoy the film more because of how grounded it felt. And you're talking about how stylized the John Wick movies are. This isn't that, and it works to the film's advantage. And then you couple that with a great performance by the lead actor, 2 lines at the end of the movie that got a laugh from our theater that I was in. It was just.
It's great to end it on like a high point after all of
that.
Yeah. You couple it with beautiful visuals. I mean, the film is shot it's gorgeous. You got these beautiful landscapes.
It's incredible what they got. There's 6 million euros, whereas like most films, John Wick's all in the 80 to like hundreds million. I don't know what the conversion is these days, but
I didn't pay
$6 million.
Yeah,
I didn't pay too close attention to like the musical score. That was kind of understated. I think.
I think that was definitely
there. That I mean, it needed to be there, but it didn't need to be something that would draw your focus.
That's what really reminded me of like Dunkirk in 1917. It's a lot more about the sound, especially the sound
like when his ears are ringing, and sort of muffled dialogue is heard. They really play with the space when it comes to sound and what Corpy is experiencing, because the focus is on him the entire time.
Yeah.
And again, you brought up 1917. I could see a version of this film done in one take.
Yeah, for sure. If they had the budget, I mean,
absolutely.
Budget so that I think it was Roger Deakins, right? Did that one?
Yeah.
Made a whole like new camera technique.
Oh man, if you could bring in Deakins for this film.
Oh man. Bring Deakins to Finland.
I don't think it could be interesting, but I don't think the movie really lacks anything from not having like lower budget, more grounded feel. It just feels better for a story like this.
And the most important thing, the dog doesn't die.
Amen.
Dog, honestly, it's like a dog version of Sisu. It can't die. It's immortal.
True.
And you keep finding it. That dog is special. I love it.
Yeah.
The way it runs is so cute.
It's so fluffy too, with the curls and the.
Yeah.
Just like my Maggie.
Yeah.
My boys too.
He's like Snowy in a Tintin in a way.
It's a Bedlington Terrier. I looked it up.
Does that breed of dog have Northern European origins?
I think so. I mean, it's a terrier, so I assume it's Northern Europe.
So talking about the dog is probably a good way to wrap up. I've got nothing else to say. This is a really, really well put together film.
Worth
experience.
Worth checking out and not missing it.
It's only an hour and a half. Like, plenty of films are so long these days unnecessarily.
Yeah,
this just felt compact and didn't need to be longer. It was perfect.
Amen.
So Sisu is playing in some movie theaters right now. It's had sort of a gradual release. After premiering in the festival circuit last year, but it's playing in a lot of movie theaters. Check with your local theater to see if you can go check it out. Again, 90 minutes, absolutely worth it. We will be back next week. Max will be back next week, and he is going to be taking over the hosting duties for the episode to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Will Declan enjoy it more than he enjoys Guardians 2? Who's to say? Probably not. It's one of his favorite movies of all time. All right, good night.
Even true.
All right, we will see you next week. Bye.
Good night.